So I'm going to show you here how to use Stellarium. I'm over on the Mac side of the computer, and it should be installed on both the Mac and Windows side of the computer here at school. However, you should have no problem navigating it on Windows, which I assume is what most of you will use. The program itself is the same on both systems. I've not been able to find any significant difference between the two. So what I have around the border here, my desktop and such, will look a little bit different, but beyond that, it should look up pretty much the same. I also recommend having Stellarium open while you watch this video and actually trying out some of the things that I'm trying here and just pausing the video frequently as I do it. Or maybe doing a side-by-side thing. In Windows, you can just grab the tab here, and in Windows 7 or 8, which is what all the school computers have, you can drag my video over to one side and Stellarium over to the other side, and you can have them side-by-side right there and actually try things along with me and then be able to pause me if you need to as you go through this. So anyway, I backed this up to the daytime here to show you what it would look like when you fire it up, because most likely you're going to be doing this here during the school day. And one thing that I will point out that Stellarium does that I do not like is it starts out by default in the full screen mode. And so down in the bottom there is a menu bar, and it normally hides itself. But if you bring the mouse down there to the bottom, you can click on the little box there and make it not full screen, make it a windowed program instead, like most programs that you use in Windows. So that's the first thing. Anyway, there's two menus that are here. One's down at the bottom, one's over on the side. You can lock them into place by hitting the little corners down here in the bottom, and they are transparent enough that it probably is okay if you do freeze them there. Personally, I kind of like looking at the full sky, and so as much as possible, I leave them away, and then I jump between the two. Anyway, when you open up Stellarium, it will give you a view here. Right now, it's dark outside where I'm at, and it's been kind of cloudy the last couple days. So this is not at all what the sky would look like right now if I were to go look at this. This is not like there's a camera out there somewhere watching for us. This is all computer simulation. The ground here is an actual screen photo, panoramic photo of some location, and you can actually change the location in one of the menus over here, which I'll get to. But you can see our sun up in the sky. And right now you can see the sky there. But most of the stuff that we'll do Stellarium for, we'll want it to be nighttime. So you can fast forward to night, of course, using the controls down here. And we can watch the sunset here over the horizon, and then see the stars start to come out as the night goes on. You could pause and play, otherwise it's real time here. You can fast forward and rewind, and if you ever go too fast or get going too crazy, you can always hit the return to now feature, which now, since it is dark outside for me, anytime I hit the return to now, it's going to be a nighttime sky, whereas for you, it'd return to probably a daytime sky. Anyway, over here on the side, you can set the actual date and time, and there will be times where we want to go look at a historic event or recreate a historic event, and so we might set our date and time to some particular event and look at the nighttime sky there. But you can set date and time. One thing I will say, if you don't pause it first, the seconds here will keep clicking on you. If you're off by a few seconds on date and time, it's not going to affect any of your measurements here on the astronomical scale. Above the date and time settings are the location settings, and you'll notice that I have mine set here to be at Rushi. I went and looked up our latitude, longitude, and elevation and typed those in there, and then set that as a default. You can do that certainly if you'd like, but to be honest, Dayton's probably close enough, and if you search for Dayton here, you will find Dayton, Ohio, and you probably just saw my sky jump a little bit here. If we go way down to Florida, we can see the sky jump quite a bit, but just going for Rushi, it's not a huge jump between Dayton and here, and it's probably good enough just to leave it at Dayton if you'd like. I'm going to go back to Rushi though, and there we go. And it will tell you where you're viewing at here on Earth. Also over on the side are sky and viewing options. We won't tend to change too much here, though occasionally we might change the size of the moon. You can turn light pollution on and off. You can turn on shooting stars on and off and kind of simulate a meteor shower. And you can also change how dim objects go. Right here, some of the objects that show up in the night sky are a little bit dimmer than what you can see with naked eye, but all will be visible through a pair of binoculars, and certainly through a telescope you probably see even dimmer than this. Most of the other settings here we're not going to play with here in this menu because they're available down in the bottom menu because they're used so frequently. One thing I will point out though, you can play with the landscape as I mentioned and change where you're at. The default one is this French village. That is the horizon that we have currently, and you can also change away from the traditional International Astronomical Union settings of constellations and look at other cultures' constellations, which is always interesting to see what patterns they saw in the night sky instead. If there's ever an object that you want to search for, so right now let's say I wanted to search for the planet Jupiter in the night sky, you got to spell it right, but if we search for Jupiter, Jupiter is not visible right now, so let's see if we can find one that's actually out right now. There we go, there's Mars. Mars is visible right now in the night sky when I'm recording this video, and you can see it here, there, and you can use the search feature for that. You can also search, of course, things that are not planets, and you can go through lists that they have as well to search for things. Certainly, if you're ever stuck, there is a help menu, and there is a really great online wiki that's run by the creators and users of this program. Anyway, like I said, most of the other settings that you'll play with are down here on the bottom, and I'm going to actually freeze this bottom grid up here real quick. So you've already seen some of the constellation stuff turn on here. I hit that button accidentally a moment ago. But here you can see we can click on and turn on the constellations, and their lines will show up. We can turn on the names of the constellations, and those will show up. We can also turn on the constellation art and see the artwork that the ancients imagined. One thing you can't do from here that you have to go to the sky and viewing options is the boundaries of the constellations. And so we can do those. There. You can also change the brightnesses of these things in that menu. Sometimes we'll want the grids on as well, and so there's different celestial grids that we can use, and those are drawn here on the map. And what's nice about a simulation like this is the scales move with you and always stay at the edge of the screen, so they don't get in the way of viewing the night sky. Sometimes the ground gets in the way of viewing the night sky, and you can, here in Stellarium, turn the ground off. You can see what the other side of the Earth would see. I don't tend to turn this ground off all that much, but I do tend to turn the atmosphere on and off. So here's the atmosphere on versus off, and you notice the amount of stars that you can see change based off of the fact that we do have an atmosphere that gets in the way of our viewing. And especially during daytime observations, during things that we need to do when the sun is out. Here, the sun just washes out everything because it's too bright, but if you turn off the sky, then we could see where the sun is, and we can see what constellation it's in, and we can really make out the night sky, even though you can't actually see the night sky or turn off the atmosphere for real. We can also turn on Cardinal Points. I believe they're on by default normally, but the north, south, east, west, and you can go more detailed than that. You can always center on objects that you've picked, and there's a couple measurement tools down here as well that when you need them, we will use them.
I apologize for the jump cut here and the word change, but there's one big thing that I forgot to mention, and that is that you can zoom in and out on an object. The best way to do that is with the mouse wheel, and you can just scroll in and actually zoom in on an object, and you can zoom way in, or you can zoom out, and zooming in is great if you want to see some details. Zooming out is phenomenal if you want to have a better perspective of the whole sky, kind of get a fisheye view of things. But anyway, zoom in with the mouse wheel.
But that's the basics of Stellarium. It's installed on all the computers here at school. It is a free program, and if you just go search for it online, you can certainly find it and download it for free if you would like. It's right there. And as I said, there's also a very good wiki page about using Stellarium, and if there's ever any questions, there's also a lot of add-ons because it is an open source software. So there's a lot of other tools that other people have developed for using with Stellarium that certainly if you'd like to play around with, you're more than welcome to download it at home, to open it up at school at other times and just play with it, and just revel at being able to stargaze without having to have a night sky. Although nothing takes the place of actually going out and looking at the night sky. Anyway, we'll use Stellarium for quite a few labs here in the astronomy section, so be sure if you have any questions that you touch base with me, and enjoy your viewing.